Hello. Around the world, governments are facing new demands of expectations from their now informed populace through a fast-growing array of technologies. And at the heart of those new technologies lies social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, MySpace, and many more others, which promises development towards um, increased and enhanced citizen participation in decision-making processes. Think of the historic revolution moments just a couple of years ago in the uh, African Maghreb or North Africa and the Middle East, and how ordinary citizens on the streets and on the blocks mobilized, made use of social platforms and utilities to mobilize for change and even demand that a new way of doing things be instituted by executive leadership and authorities, the powers that be. Social media has now expressed a paradigmatic shift regarding how to govern, which deeply transforms the way governments think, act, and even carry out their policies. Speaking at the 2009 World Economic Forum, United Nations Secretary Ban Ki-moon said that our times demand a new definition of global leadership. They demand a new constellation of international cooperation between governments, the private sector, and the civil society, working together for a collective global good. In the face of major troubles facing the world today, our color of skin, gender, uh, religious creed, political opinions, social status, or geographical locations may hold some little bit of sort of significance to us, but really they do not matter because no matter who we are, or no matter where we are, no matter what piece of ground we occupy, our fundamental needs of subsistence, affection, protection, understanding, leisure, creation, participation, identity, and freedom are all the same. It don't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from. You need these fundamental needs because you're a human being and is enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by virtue of being human beings. We are all inherently entitled to fundamental inalienable rights such as the right to life, freedom from torture, freedom from slavery. Uh, Everybody deserves to live in a fair and just society where he or she can thrive in. Freedom of speech, freedom after the speech, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, and others. The world today is facing a potentially calamitous problem relating to environmental destruction and global warming. Destruction of rainforests, ocean ecosystems, rivers, and coastal wetlands. The phenomenon of global warming, which is now bringing about changing rainfall patterns and increased surface temperatures. The scientific community concludes that global warming is at least now partly man-made and brought about through the emissions of the so-called greenhouse gases, such as methane and carbon dioxide, which causes the Earth's atmosphere to retain more heat. Water scarcity is now related to global warming. And as one brilliant leader, King Abdullah of Jordan, has predicted, that potential future conflicts will not be over land, but over water. And that's geopolitics. Despite the rapid process of globalization making the world an even smaller place, you've heard the term global village. Think of how you can sit in front of your computer and laptop and hold your smart device in the palm of your hands and instantly connect in a live moment to somebody across the Atlantic, across the Pacific, across the Indian Ocean, and despite all this evolving of technology, making the world an even smaller place. Our world is still marred by ideological and religious differences, mutual distrust and enmity, a world of racial and ethnic disharmony, um, and one characterized by massive disparities in wealth. Think about issues of the gap between the reality between and the gap between the rich and the poor, and how this gap is not getting better, but even getting worse. We are facing deeply rooted social problems such as the illegal drug trade and drug abuse, you know, human trafficking, and modern day slavery. It's shocking the number of systems that are involved, even governments involved in, governments collaborating with syndicates involved in human trafficking, the number of women that are being shipped across other nations to for sex exploitation and forced labor, including children. Issues of hunger, the number of people that are going hungry on a daily basis, it's shocking. And issues of preventable disease such as malaria, which kills more than HIV and AIDS, and the crisis of the HIV and AIDS, which I kind of applaud some certain sub-Saharan governments in Africa, which are working really hard to meet their MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, which is commendable efforts. Think of many lack of just, honest, and transparent governments, lacking political accountability, self-serving systems of authoritarian regimes that would do anything, just anything, to cling on to power. Just the other day, the world witnessed a horrific sight in Syria where weapons of mass destruction and chemical weapons was used against citizens, against innocent people, men, women, and sadly, children. It's unbelievable that such a thing can happen right in front of the eyes of the world, and the world does nothing. And these authoritarian rulers, I think, are sending a message across that, look, we don't believe in accountability, and we can do as we wish. And there is nothing that anybody can do about this whole issue. And I think when we face those kind of problems, it's not something that needs to be negotiated. It's something that needs to be taken action immediately so that it doesn't happen again. Grand and political corruption taking place at the high levels of the political systems involving political decision makers, characterized by bribery, embezzlement, fraud, extortion, favoritism, and nepotism. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption defines corruption as a terrible plague with a wide corrosive effects on societies. Corruption undermines democracy and the rule of law. It leads to violations of human rights, including violence against women and against children. It distorts markets, erodes the quality of life, and allows organized crime such as terrorism and others which are a threat to human security to flourish. Think of a corrupt immigration official who gets bribed by some kind of elements, takes a bribe, and issues a passport and a national identity card to some elements, and then only after an attack such as the Westgate Mall attack in Nairobi last year in 2013, only do they realize that the people they issued passports with were indeed terrorists. That's what corruption is able to do. Corruption hurts the poor disproportionately by diverting funds that are intended for development, undermining government's ability to provide basic services, feeding inequality and injustice, discouraging foreign aid and investment. Corruption is a key element in economic underperformance and a major obstacle to poverty alleviation and development. But perhaps what's really shocking today is none of the issues and none of the horrible problems that I quoted or spoke about, however tragic they may sound. What's really shocking today relating to all of these issues that I speak about is lack of political will, the unwillingness, uh, lack of real desire by politicians to commit themselves, to fix these problems. Even some of the leading countries are unwilling to show action and to show initiatives that can save the world from global warming, that can save the world from other problems, social, economic, and political problems that we are facing. Lack of political will, and a commitment to bring about change concerning these changeable problems, because the problems that we are facing are not unsolvable. They are not eternal. They can be solved if leaders can be imbued by a missionary zeal to tackle them, and if they can show a little more commitment. We, the citizens of the world, have a duty towards the state, towards our families, towards the society, and even towards the international community. And the only thing that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men sit idly by and do nothing. It is upon us to rise up and seize the hour, because we now have the power. Thank you.